So I said, what I've given you is only selected one, otherwise it will be here for hours, and you need to bring your sleeping bag. So we give you explicit verses from John himself, which mean, not imply, but mean, that Jesus, peace be upon him, is definitely a man. He can do nothing of himself. He is not God. Whereas the sole verse you take out, it's not an explicit, and it most certainly does not mean that. Now, there are a couple of problems with the Gospel of John for our Christian brothers and sisters. These problems are severe. To be honest, they really are severe. No, we'll start with the Markan. There are two. We'll just take two of them. We'll start with the Markan priority. The Markan priority refers to the historical sequence when the four Gospels were written. Now, the Markan priority is the analysis of Christian scholars throughout, maybe, I don't know, the last 200-300 years or longer. I think the Germans have a very big contribution. For the last 200-300 years, Germans have very big contributions into this Markan priority as well. But they're not the only ones. Today, the one who do most work, to be honest, are the Americans today, more than Europeans, in study of the Bible. So the Markan priority implies a historical sequence, and there is, you could safely say, there is virtually unanimous agreement. You find extremely few people who may say this is not correct, and they cannot substantiate their view anyway. But very, very few, if any, But there is virtually, it's unanimous. The scholars are unanimous over the fact that Mark, the Gospel of Mark, was the first Gospel which was written, followed by Matthew and Luke, who predominantly copied from Mark, and then followed by John, which is the last of the four Gospels, the very last, maybe space it by 20 or 30 years after Matthew and Luke. So it's the last one. Now, this is why I say this is a huge problem for Christian brothers and sisters. Why? It's because before Abraham was I am, is only found in John, and John is the last one. The last one means he's the further from the source, which is, I would say, Jesus, peace be upon him. He's the further from the source. Historically, he's the later, he's the last one. And it's three in the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They do not exist. And yet, I do not want to move this subject to other subjects, but I'll very briefly mention something so that you understand how severe the case is. Because I can see some of our Christian brothers and sisters will be dying to bring other verses. All the verses you bring are from John when you try and prove that Jesus is God, or the divinity, try and prove the divinity of Jesus, peace be upon him. So you say, for instance, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. For instance, and al-ayah, you say until the end of the verse.